What up, everybody? I'm Dave Miranda, and this is episode 48 of Just Give Me 5. I hope you guys are doing well, continue to be amazing. We got a really great show lined up for you today. But if you guys caught episode 47, you saw we had none other than the beautiful Jackie Morales. And let me tell you, if you saw that episode, then you know how special it was. Because Jackie is just someone who, is just a rare gem in the scene, in life, period. And it's someone that I am very happy to call a friend. And I thought it was beautiful for her to tell her story, and I met up with her afterwards, a couple days after the shoot, and she was like, yeah, there was things that I've never really disclosed to anybody before. So thank you and Jimmy for making me feel comfortable. And she just truly enjoyed it. And I couldn't be any more grateful. So, thank you, my friend. I wish you nothing but continued success and nothing less. Make sure you guys watch episode 47. All right. But today's guest has been a pioneer in the Arizona scene for over 2 decades now. We're going to talk about his times with the legendary XPOZ magazine. We're going to talk about his times with Shade 45. We're going to talk about his times with Power, a few memorable moments that I can't wait to hear, and much more. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you Little Shawn.
What's good, y'all? Little Shawn. All I'm saying, just give me 5. Nothing. I didn't want to be in radio. I just wanted to be cool and be in the mix. Radio found me. I was chasing around the guy out here named DJ Fashion because he was the DJ and he had all the music. I just wanted to be involved in the music and the scene. And by following him around, I wound up going through Derek Ware, who is now Urban AZ, he was at that point Diamond Entertainment. I was a club promoter at 19 working at Jets and Sticks. What was the other one? House of Grooves.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Amvet's Post 66, those were my clubs.
Yeah.
And Fashion was my DJ. So by going through him to have him DJ, I was buying commercials for Derek Ware at Power 92.
Okay.
So they were at my club. So you just have Bruce St. James on and he'll tell you, in his interview, he said basically, my job was to find the guys that were in the mix of everything and then teach them radio. And I was one of those guys. He found me and was like, hey, Fashion, ask your guy if he wants to be on the radio.
Yeah.
And I said no, because I was making more money in the clubs.
Right.
And the radio was offering, we're talking 1998, 99.
Yeah, that's shortchanged.
$6.25 an hour.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, I'm good. I'll stay at the club.
We're gonna do the math.
And then the club got dangerous one night, and I was like, hey, y'all still want me on the radio?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah. So, I, just like everybody else out here, grew up on Power 92. First time I remember, recording, just like everybody else on the, recording was I Rock Loc.
Yeah.
I'm Mr. I Rock Loc, I'm from the Fofo. Oh.
Right.
I've been to pull into your curb real slow. So, that's how it started from just listening to the radio. But when I got there, man, I fell in love. First night on the radio, I was on Medina's Madhouse.
Okay.
It was me, Mark Medina, obviously DJ Fashion, and then there was 2 street guys that weren't there at that they weren't there that night when we first walked in, but they just showed up, and they were like, what should we do?
Yeah.
We're giving away bomb tickets for the Big Bomb concert. And I remember standing there, going, hey, I got an idea. They just had the elections. Why don't we see who could pick up the most election signs and show up on a street corner with their signs, and we'll give whoever brings the most.
Right.
This was in September. I didn't know jack diddly about elections. They weren't over. We wound up on the news that night. I cost Power 92, my first night on the radio, I cost them $30,000.
Wow.
Yeah, the owner at the time was this guy named Fred Weber. He owned KFYI and Power 92 at the building right there on First Ave and McKinley. And I cost him $30,000 for all the signs that we picked up off the streets. So I thought my radio career was over.
Yeah.
But the press that we got kept me. So it turned into something really good.
Nice.
So that's how my love for radio came about. The fact that radio loved me back and kept me there, even though my first night really on the radio, I failed miserably. At least in my eyes, I thought I did.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy, right? You didn't know? The craziness that I brought in from day one, right out the gate. So yeah, my affinity for radio was based on watching my friends who were doing it and wanting to be a part of what they were doing. But it wasn't actually a draw to radio. I just knew I was gonna be in the scene. That's it. So XPOZ magazine was a great introduction to a second form of media for me. My buddy David had this idea, him and Matt were running around with this magazine and they were like, bro, we want you to be a part of it. We just don't know how. Do you have an idea what you want to do? And I said, oh yeah, I want to be the music editor. Yeah. I want to write about the new songs that are coming out and that are the new albums, and just be able to actually have a voice for Phoenix and just for our market, be able to let people know what's out there. Right. I felt like me being at the radio station and just being an aficionado of music, I felt like that was the perfect role for me, and they agreed. So I started writing, you know, I was doing even as low as, I was writing mixtapes. I was writing reviews for mixtapes even, you know, talking about Who Kid's mixtape when he very first introduced us to the game. And his name was Chuck Taylor at the time.
That's right.
He was still going by Chuck Taylor.
Chuck Taylor, yeah.
And he didn't, and then they said, nope, Converse like, nope, sorry, you can't use that. And he solidified to the game.
Yep.
A step further, I wrote the review on College Dropout after Rolling Stone wrote the bad review. I had the full album. I don't even remember how I got the whole album, but I had the full album, and Kanye shows up in Phoenix with Don C at Kiss FM. This is now at this point, I'm at Kiss. Okay. And I wrote my review. Kanye was on the cover, and I asked Kanye to sign the XPOZ magazine. And he was like, did you write a review on my album? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, man, the album's not even out yet. How'd you write it? And I said, I got the whole album, bro. Right. I said, man, it's only a paragraph. I said, go ahead and skim it. I said, you ain't got to sign it if you don't like what I wrote. Yeah. And he literally skimmed the article. He said, where's the marker? And he signed a bunch of them, and that's the picture I sent you. Right. You know, where me and him are sitting we were standing right there in the Kiss FM studios. I got like a 2X Fat Farm shirt on because that's what we wore then. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. Oversized shirt, but Kanye's jaw, if you look at in that picture, his jaw is still swollen. From the whole, He had just took the wire out of his jaw from breaking it in that car accident. Yeah. And he signed them for me, took the picture with me and everything. And then, you know, a year later, I'm in New York hanging out with Kanye again. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, that was my XPOZ. That's how I wound up with those guys, just writing, and it worked out. And then I came back to XPOZ later on down the line after everything, and continued working with them after I moved back to Arizona. Man, I was really fortunate and lucky enough to have that opportunity, man, to be the first person hired by Shady for Shade 45. It was just a relationship when I was at Power and Eminem came through. Yeah. I knew who he was because of fashion. My relationship with fashion put me on to, I literally had the cassette for the Marshall Mathers EP, or the Slim Shady EP, in my backpack while I'm sitting there recording the drops for Power 92 with M in the studio. And then I was sitting there talking with him, and he was supposed to leave and go to a different station. Because you gotta remember, when M hit, he hit so hard that they were playing him on the rock stations too. Yeah, yeah. 103.9 was playing him out here. I think 96.9, I think KUPD was even playing him at the time a little bit. So
he had that crossover at the time.
Yeah, so he was sitting in the studio with us, and they were like, hey man, we gotta go. And he was like, yeah, screw them, I'm hanging out with this guy.
Right.
I was like, I felt like the coolest guy in the room, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that relationship kept blossoming and blossoming, and every time he would come to this side of the country, whether it was Vegas, LA, or here, I was always on call from Paul Rosenberg or Proof to go, hey man, let's hang out. Nice. So I got a call from Paul. I had literally just landed. I was in Mexico with a couple of the homies, and I had just landed going through customs, and Paul calls me. He's like, hey man, there's a ticket at the airport waiting for you. I'm like, I'm at the airport. He goes, all right, man, just grab your bag and come to Vegas.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I gotta go home. I need to sleep in my own bed for one night, just coming back from a weekend bender in Mexico.
Right.
I'm not coming to Vegas to bender again.
Right.
So he's like, man, all right, get on the first thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Look, he's like, there's an open-ended flight for you there.
Okay.
So I jump on a flight the next day at 2 o'clock, flew out to Vegas, sit with Paul Rosenberg. He's like, we want to hire you. We want you to put together the station, help us build this whole thing. Then I go wind up in Vegas, you know, doing that. And then a month later, I'm in New York, sitting down with the big dogs at Sirius, and they're like, dude, we love you.
Yeah.
Come on. I'm like, all right. It's like, what do you need me to do? Start reaching out to people.
Right.
As we need DJs. So I reach out to DJ Drama before Gangsta Grills was really a big thing.
Yeah.
He brings over Drama, Cannon, Sense, the whole affiliates we bring in. Reach out to Felly Fell, bring him in to do Saturday nights. You know, Muggs, obviously Who Kid, you know, Clinton Sparks. And I was just literally just reaching out to these people like, hey, bro, you want to come over here and do a 4-hour radio show
Right.
and just hang out nationally and just shoot the shit with us? And they were like, everybody jumped on and it worked. I reached out to Fashion. Fashion did some fill-ins for us on Shade.
Yeah.
But we were so different that people didn't really understand it, man. It was so crazy. We were literally walking around New York like, I'm running up on Mano, one of the most gangster rappers out at that time, and I'm running up on him in the middle of the nightclub like, hey, bro, hey, here's my car, come see me.
Right.
He's like, who the fuck are you?
Who are you? Yeah.
I'm like, man, check this out. I'm doing that with everybody. And then that's how I created, you know, the same thing I did out here,
Yeah.
I was doing in New York. I didn't realize that I was doing anything major or anything big. You know, I was just doing radio and talking shit to people to come and hang out with me at the radio station.
Right.
But I mean, I was there with everybody from, you know, I did interviews with Young Buck when he was at G Unit, where we had the president of BET calling me directly, telling me, please don't air this interview that you just recorded today, because it was the day before the very first BET Hip Hop Awards, and Young Buck went off with the whole G Unit beef, was like, hey, Lil Wayne, if you come out there, you get on a plane and you go back home. Hey, Fat Joe, if you come out here, you get on a plane after the show and you go back home. Don't hang out.
Right.
Y'all are too far from home.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting here I'm in the middle of the beef between Lil Wayne, where him and Baby got caught, you know, kissing, and I'm bringing Gilly on the radio.
Right.
I got an interview with Gilly the Kid from Shade 45, where he basically says, how old is Lil Wayne right now?
Right.
How old is Stunner? If he says he's been kissing that boy since he signed him, he's been molesting that boy.
Right. Wow.
Somebody need to call CETA.
Wow.
These are the interviews that I was able to pull in just because I was hanging out and just doing me.
Right.
There's all this stuff that was happening at Shade 45, man. It was so much fun to just be in that building.
Yeah.
Our studios were right next to OutQ, which is the gay and lesbian channel.
Okay.
Which is even crazier to have Eminem station right next to that.
Yeah.
And right across the hall from them is, what's her name? The girl with Snoop, the old white woman. Martha Stewart. Her studio was right there.
Oh my God.
So we had like this whole little corner, and then you go back on the other side and you've got Bruce Springsteen.
Wow.
And then you got Maxim Magazine, and it was just all these different places. So you would be able to walk over and go, hey, who you talking to? Hey, bring him over here real quick.
Right.
And be able to do all of that just because there was so much just interaction between all of these different stations.
Yeah.
That was the best part, man. I got to interview people that had nothing to do with nothing with hip hop.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. Just being able to walk by. Come on in, just like that. And that's how it happened. It was the coolest experience of my life, music-wise. So that's how Shade 45 happened, man. It was a blast. I loved it. I would never get that part of my life was so much fun, and I didn't even realize how much fun I was having until after it was over.
Right.
It's crazy.
That's dope. Oh my God, what a time, man.
Yeah, man.
I can only imagine, bro.
There was fun things happening. You know, New York in the early 2000s, being there, hanging out with 50. I mean, here's a crazy
Like
thing.
young 50.
Young 50.
Yeah.
This is like get money 50.
Yeah.
50 would come up to the studio and hang out because Martha Stewart was there, and they would kick it.
Yeah.
And you know who would come in? You know who would come up there and try to hang out and take us to lunch? Donald Trump.
Oh shit.
I've been to lunch with Donald Trump like 2 or 3 times.
We're gonna keep
Yeah. There was stuff like that. Like Trump would come and want to hang out with 50 so bad that he would take us to lunch at like Del Frisco's, because Del Frisco Steakhouse was in the building where Sirius was. So it was on the first floor. We go down there and have lunch, order up whatever the hell we wanted. I'm taking filet mignon home, because Trump's like, yeah. 50 said it perfect. 50 explained Trump. He's like, he's that kid that nobody wants to hang out with at school except for right before his birthday party, because you know his birthday party's gonna be off the chain. That's it. He was like, man, I can't stand it.
Take care of everyone.
50 used to say, man, I can't stand this dude. But we would be at lunch. Who kid over there talking shit. Me, Reef, just hanging out. Like, it was just crazy. The random things that were happening back then.
You got to dig deep a little bit, but...
I mean, there was that moment, we're in Vegas, sitting at a long table in the back of a restaurant at Mandalay Bay. I'm sitting next to the head of the table where Eminem is sitting.
Okay.
50 sitting across from me. Proof is sitting next to 50. The rest of D12's here. I think Paul was sitting next to me. But I'm watching M and 50 have this conversation.
Yeah.
And halfway in the middle of this conversation, in the middle of 50 talking to M, he's just like, yo, son, and then blah, 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 and he spits the bullet out that's lodged in his jaw from the shooting.
Wow.
Yo, son, that's the bullet. He's looking at M. Yo, son, that's the bullet right there, son, that's the bullet.
Oh my God.
Talk about seeing something like,
It wasn't a tooth.
it was a bullet that was lodged in the jaw. They would have had to shatter his jaw, I guess, when he got shot. It lodged in his jawline, in his jaw, like in the bone.
Right.
And they told him, yeah, one day it'll fall out.
You witnessed that.
Yeah, that was crazy for me. That right there, that was one of those moments where I was like, nobody's ever gonna believe this.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever. And M's told the story too. M has told the same story.
Yeah.
It's the craziest thing. I was sitting right there though when it happened. I was like, bro, this is like really happening.
Right.
This is like really happening. Like this dude spit a bullet out of his jawline.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah, so that's probably one of the most wild times in the music industry for me. There's that. There's the time that let's see, me and Obi Trice got ran up on by the hip hop cops in New York City by about 13 cops.
Oh wow.
Just because they couldn't see inside my Denali, and they thought somebody was in it. It wasn't the first time that had happened, but Obi was in New York that time when they ran up.
In regards of like tint.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, they
okay.
couldn't see inside the tent, but the hip hop cops were a real thing. They used to run up on you in New York and just pull you out of your car. We had just come out of a club.
Yep.
We were stuck in a little bit of traffic, or at least we thought was traffic, but they were all undercover cops. And they ran up on us, guns drawn, pulled us out. Nobody got arrested. Kept us on the curb for 2.5 hours for absolutely nothing. Tore my entire car apart. Paul Rosenberg got called. I'm like, yo, Paul, like, they're holding the phone. I'm in cuffs. They're holding the phone up to my ear. I'm like, yo, Paul, can you come down here and tell us, he's like, man, I'm not coming down there.
Yeah.
Sure enough, they just let us go.
Wow.
Took Obi back to the hotel. Like, that was just some crazy stuff. To feel like you're that in hip hop and that involved in the artists.
Right.
And I didn't think I was. I didn't think that I was that important or that anything to where the hip hop cops would know who I was, because they called me by name. Wow. They knew my first and last name. They called me straight government. Yeah.
Oh wow.
They were like, Shawn Forbes. I was like, wow, okay. One of those. And it made me realize that, how into this I was, how in depth I was,
Right.
There was that, and then I'll say the last but not least was another Shade 45 moment was just Anger Management 3.
Oh,
We had a Shade 45 bus. We had our own bus for the tour, completely wrapped. Everybody on it, me, Rude Jude, Lord Sear, Cypher Sounds, everybody, all the artists would come off and on that bus. That was crazy to actually be on a tour with M and 50 and travel the country and see all that I got to see with them. That was just, there's interviews that I've just found that were from that tour with me talking with everybody from security to 50 to M to artists that were, Bun B when we passed through San Antonio. Bun B came out because he was trying to get a verse from 50. did an interview, you know, being able to do that. Slim Cutter Calhoun that was signed to Outkast when we went through Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Walking through and just grabbing these people and being able to, from relationships that I made here in Arizona and Phoenix, to bump into them on the road 3, 4, 5 years later, and them go running up like, yo, oh man. And that was like one of the biggest touches for me, because it made me realize that I had actually made it. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those things like, you're there.
Like, I'm here now.
When artists are coming up to you and saying, yo, Shawn, what's good, man? Hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just grabbing some interviews. Hey, man, let's do this. All right, cool, let's do this. Right. You know, it made me feel like accomplished in my setting. Yeah. So yeah, those are probably my biggest things. I know that the 50 bullet thing was a big deal.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Right? That's the moment where I tell people, I'm like, yo, the craziest thing that's ever happened, watch the man spit a bullet out of his mouth. And that man happened to be 50 Cent. I mean, I've had a lot of support out here, especially out here, you know, from the radio stations, you know, 101.1, you know what I mean? They were big in my comeback, you know what I mean? You know, my family, of course, you know, my sisters were good, my dad, my mom, you know, my wife who's there now, you know what I mean? Who's there every day while I go through these different things that I want to do and how to rebuild and rebrand and go back out there. So, but as far as out here with the people that have done a lot for me, you know, it was, you know, Fashion was there. Fashion was one of those first people that believed and trusted in me and gave me his lane to do what I wanted to in it. You know, he would say, oh yeah, this is Shawn, whatever. You know, that trust, that level of trust to have, you know. A lot of what people don't realize, when I was out here and I was doing what I was doing, I was in the streets too. I was in the streets heavy. I was out here hustling. Like, I did Fed time for marijuana. Wow. People don't know that. I went away for 1.5 years because of weed. That's where I disappeared to. People were like, what happened to Shawn? He was on Shade, then all of a sudden he was gone for a couple years. Yeah, I disappeared for a minute. I went away, you know. So the people who supported me through that, you know, that meant a lot too. You know, my team, my fantastic boys out here, like, those are my guys. Those were always good. You were here, you know what I mean? Yeah. There was a lot of people on the radio. You know, I've even had to go back and make amends with people, you know, with like J times 3. Me and him used to butt heads. Me and him, we just butted heads. Me and him, that's my guy now. You know, I reached out, apologized to him because I was a lot to handle back in the day. Yeah. So for me, it's like, hey, I would like to thank the people who didn't come up and smack me in my face, because I was a lot to deal with. The people who actually still tried to be next to me, even though I was too much to stand next to at the time. The people that still tried to support and show their love for me. Those are the people that I really want to thank, because I was an asshole. I was a dick to a lot of people for no reason, just because I made a lane. There was the three Ds in radio: the dick, the deer, and the dork. I was the dick, and I owned it, and I played it big. I was Charlemagne before Charlemagne. You know, I was the guy that rounded up and I was the one that Mark Medina said, hey, when this person comes in, you're the one that's gonna ask them this question. And I learned how to be that person forever in my career. And so the people who didn't take it to heart and rolled with me and still stuck it through, thank you. And the people who did take it to heart, I'm sorry. I was part of who I was trying to be in my lane as a radio personality. So that's really what it comes down to for me. Just kind of making amends with the people and thanking the ones that, you know, stuck it out with me. You know, those Bobby Freshes, those Davids, you know what I mean, at XPOZ, you know, those are the people that, you know, were still there and rocking with me. We fought, we kicked, we screamed. Sin Q, you know, Mike Rashid now, you know, he's, you know, come and crash on my couch. You know, when he was a rapper and I was in New York, you know, those people, like, there's a lot of those people out here that just, and if I forgot you, I'm sorry. If I see you, I will make sure that I shout you out, you know, show some love, you know, but there's a lot of those people out there. For sure. So the things I'm working on now, I've kind of gone into that NFT world. I'm going into the metaverse. And this is something that I want to introduce you to as well, Miranda, because I feel like this is, with what you're doing, you need to be on that side as well. There's the whole digital age that we're now going into. Right. So I'm working in that world right now, working with a guy named Corporate Ken out of New York, my guy Jeff in LA. Just working slowly. Easy LP, big producer who did Uchi Wally, Bad Boy Anthem. First beat he ever sold was Get Money to Biggie. Nice. And that's the guy. So I'm working with him on some stuff right now. And he's been like a big brother to me since the Poker Face days.
Okay.
So, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's the age that I'm in. I'm moving into that digital space, trying to take old interviews that I have, the things that I have packaged and sitting there, and bringing them back out so people can actually sit and hear those things. Because there's some stuff that people want to hear.
Right.
So I'm in that right now. Mustafa, he's helping me out with it. You know, I got Moo working with me right now. Shout out Bootleg Kev. He's one person, when I got locked up and I came home, Bootleg Kev went out of his way to get me back on the radio in Vegas. Put me on 97.5. So I got to shout him out. Kev went out of his way to do that. And I want to make sure that he knows that he's appreciated for that, especially. Because I definitely, you know, that's about it, man. That's what I'm working on. You'll see me in the NFT space. You'll see me in the metaverse. You'll see the things that I have going on. Definitely got to get in there. It's a whole nother world, literally.
And there you have it. Man, nothing but love and respect to my man, Little Shawn. You know, I swear that guy has seen it all and done it all. You know, I learned a lot from him during this episode. You know, I hope you did as well. And man, you know, I just wish you nothing but, you know, continued success, my man. And, you know, let's just keep it moving, you know. Make sure you guys are following him on social media. Shout out to my brother, Jimmy Nelson, on that camera. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This was another awesome one for sure. And till next time, stay tuned, stay blessed, stay healthy, and just give me 5, y'all.